Picture this. A fire flickers in the darkness. Humans sit close, keeping watch. Beyond the glow, a pair of glowing eyes stares back. A wolf hovers in the shadows, sniffing the air, torn between fear and hunger. One step closer, one scrap of food tossed its way, and history changes forever. Every dog today, yes, even that fluffy Pomeranian in a bow tie, carries that wolf inside. Dogs may nap on couches now, but their story started in forests and snow. Welcome to Just Paw Facts. Today, we're going to uncover the wild roots of your dog. From howling at sirens to circling before bed, from begging for pizza crust to wagging tails, every one of these quirks is part wolf, part survival, and part hilarious when it happens in your living room. Stick around because by the end, you'll never look at your dog the same way again. And I want to know, before we dive in, what's the wildest thing your dog has ever done? Drop it in the comments and let's see who has the funniest wolf moment. Imagine the world tens of thousands of years ago. No cities, no farms, no cozy houses with blankets and bowls of kibble. Just endless forests, wide plains, and humans huddled around smoky fires at night. Beyond the glow, glowing eyes watched. Wolves lingered at the edge of the firelight, dangerous, powerful, and hungry. One step closer, one moment of bravery, and the story of wolves and humans began to change forever. At first, humans and wolves were not friends. We hunted the same animals. We both wanted food and land. Sometimes we clashed, but some wolves figured out a clever trick: follow humans instead of fighting them. If you stayed close to the camp, you might get scraps of meat, bones, or leftovers tossed aside. The bold wolves who dared to come closer survived better. They didn't waste energy chasing deer, they just waited for humans to leave behind half a mammoth rib. Over many generations, those bolder wolves grew smaller, calmer, and more social. Slowly, the line between wolf and dog began to form. But why did humans allow wolves to hang around? The answer is simple. Wolves were useful. At night, wolves barked and growled when they heard strange noises, giving humans an early warning of danger. They helped protect camps by scaring away other predators, like bears or rival hunters, that might have been bold enough to creep close to the fire. Wolves also cleaned up scraps that would otherwise attract pests, keeping the campsite safer and cleaner. And let's be honest, those wolf pups must have been adorable. It would have been hard not to let them stay. It didn't take long for humans to realize these proto-dogs weren't just freeloaders, they were becoming partners. Here's something wild. Scientists now believe humans and dogs co-evolved. That means while wolves were turning into dogs, humans were changing too. With dogs by our side, we hunted better, traveled farther, and survived longer. In return, dogs got steady food, warmth, and a new kind of family. It wasn't a one-sided deal. Dogs made us stronger, and we made them gentler. Together, we became something new. Archaeologists found graves from thousands of years ago where dogs were buried alongside humans, not as tools, not as food, as family. That tells us people weren't just keeping dogs because they were useful. They loved them. And here's a fun science fact. Dogs kept a lot of puppy traits into adulthood. Wolves grow up fast and become fierce hunters. Dogs stay puppy-like longer. They're playful, curious, and clingy. Humans love that, and over time, we bred it into them. So yes, that goofy golden retriever bouncing around your living room is basically a wolf that never grew up. Imagine trying to explain this to a caveman. See that wolf? Yeah, in a few thousand years it'll be wearing sweaters, answering to the name Mr. Wiggles, and living in a pink purse. The caveman would have thought you were nuts. And yet, here we are. What dog breed today do you think still looks the most like a wolf? Huskies? German Shepherds? Or maybe that mysterious mutt down the street? Drop your guess in the comments. I want to see who gets it right. So that's how it began. Wolves moved closer. Humans let them in. Together, they rewrote survival into partnership. From that first cautious step toward the firelight came every dog you know today. Every bark, every wag, every goofy grin. And if the story begins with how wolves became dogs, the next step is learning how those ancient instincts still show up every day in our pets. Let's talk about the language of howls and barks. Imagine a quiet forest at night. The moon is high and the trees are still, but then a sound carries across the valley. A long, haunting howl. It echoes so clearly that even miles away, other wolves answer back. To wolves, howling was never random noise. It was their way of staying connected across great distances. A howl could say, "This is our land, stay away," or "Dinner is this way, follow me," or simply, "Where are you, pack? Come home." When dogs came from wolves, they carried this language with them. That's why your dog sometimes howls at sirens, music, or even your singing in the shower. To us, it sounds like noise. To them, it feels like joining a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years. In their minds, they're not being dramatic. They're responding, "Yes, I hear you. I'm here. Don't forget me." But here's where dogs made a surprising twist. Wolves howl, growl, and whine, but they don't bark much. Dogs, on the other hand, turned barking into their own special language. Think about it. A bark can mean almost anything depending on the tone and rhythm. A sharp bark might be, "Someone's here." A playful bark could be, "Chase me." A whiny bark is clearly, "Feed me now." Dogs invented a whole new vocabulary to live with humans because humans noticed and responded. Scientists believe barking became more common because dogs realized people paid attention to it. Over generations, the dogs that barked more were kept around because their sounds were useful. Imagine being one of those early humans camping at night. If your proto-dog barked when a stranger approached, it saved the whole group. That bark was worth its weight in gold. Over time, barking became part of every dog's identity. Today, some breeds hardly stop. Think about the Chihuahua or the Beagle. Both carry strong barking traditions. Other breeds like Basenjis have almost lost the bark, sticking closer to their wolf ancestors. But most dogs, they bark because it works. It gets them what they want. And let's not forget how funny it can be. Wolves once sang operas across valleys. Dogs bark at delivery trucks, shadows, and sometimes even nothing at all. You might laugh when your dog goes wild over a plastic bag blowing in the wind, but that alert system was once a life or death survival tool. So the next time your dog howls at a fire engine or barks at the neighbor's cat, remember, you're hearing a language older than human history. It may sound like noise to us, but to them, it's instinct, communication, and tradition all rolled into one. What's the weirdest thing your dog has ever barked at? Was it a shadow, a squeaky toy, or maybe even the family vacuum cleaner? Share it in the comments because every story adds another chapter to the language of dogs. Picture your dog at bedtime. The room is quiet, the lights are low, and your pup climbs onto its favorite spot, your couch, your bed, or maybe its own blanket. But instead of lying down right away, it begins the ritual. Circle once, circle twice, maybe even 3 times, before finally flopping down with a sigh. To us, it's cute. To them, it's instinct. That little spin is more than just a quirky bedtime routine. It's the echo of wild wolves making their beds in the wilderness. Thousands of years ago, wolves didn't have pillows or memory foam. They had patches of tall grass, crunchy leaves, and piles of snow. Circling helped flatten the ground into a safe resting spot, and it gave them a chance to check for hidden dangers like snakes or insects. Even though your dog is circling on a duvet or a carpet, the behavior is written into its DNA. And that's not the only survival habit that's stuck. Watch what happens when your dog digs. Maybe it's in the backyard, nose to the ground, dirt flying everywhere. Maybe it's in your sofa cushions, paws working furiously as if treasure is buried beneath the fabric. To you, it looks like chaos. To them, it's ancient wolf logic. Wolves buried food to hide it from scavengers and to save it for later. Digging was a survival skill, like keeping a secret stash for hard times. Dogs inherited that urge. The only difference is that now, instead of hiding a deer leg, they're burying squeaky toys, bones, or maybe your car keys. If there's no dirt, pillows and blankets make a fine substitute. And here's the funny part. Sometimes dogs don't actually bury anything at all. They just go through the motions, scratching and pushing at invisible dirt. It's their instincts saying, "You should hide this," even if there's nothing to hide. Digging had other purposes too. On hot days, wolves dug shallow pits in the earth to cool off. The ground beneath the surface was cooler, and it offered relief from the summer heat. If your dog is digging in the yard and then plops down in the hole, it's not being destructive. It's building a natural air conditioner. Den building is another wolf legacy. Wolves raise their pups in underground dens, safe from predators and the weather. The den was a shelter, a nursery, and a fortress all in one. Dogs don't need dens anymore, but they never forgot the feeling. That's why so many dogs love curling up under blankets, hiding in laundry baskets, or squeezing themselves into cardboard boxes. To them, it feels safe and familiar, like the ancient dens of their wolf ancestors. Imagine your dog's perspective. You just bought a fancy, expensive dog bed, soft and cushy. But instead of using it, your dog climbs into the laundry basket filled with towels. To us, it's baffling. To them, it's instinct. A pile of towels is just a modern-day den, soft, enclosed, and smelling like family. Science explains this perfectly. When dogs dig, circle, and hide, it activates the same parts of their brain that wolves use for survival. The behaviors no longer serve the same purpose in a modern home, but the neural wiring is still there. It's like software running in the background long after the original program has ended. Does your dog circle before bed, dig in the garden, or try to make a den out of your laundry? Which one of these wolf instincts shows up the most in your house? Share your stories. I guarantee every dog owner has one. So next time your dog wrecks your flower bed or buries the TV remote under a blanket, don't get too mad. You're not watching bad behavior. You're watching ancient wolf instincts in action. Your dog isn't ruining the yard. It's building a fortress. And if circling and digging are about comfort and safety, the next survival tool takes us deeper into the wild world of wolves. Let's talk about noses, because for wolves and dogs, the nose is everything. Imagine living in a world where every step, every breeze, every little thing leaves a trail of invisible messages. That's the world your dog lives in, because for them, the nose is the most powerful tool they have. Wolves relied on their noses for survival. They could smell prey from miles away, track a deer through the forest, or sense another wolf's scent long after it had passed. For them, smell wasn't just information, it was life itself. Dogs inherited that gift and turned it into something incredible. A dog's nose has up to 300 million scent receptors, while humans only have about 5 million. That means when you walk into a kitchen and say, "I smell pizza," your dog is smelling every ingredient separately. It knows there's flour from a field, tomatoes from a vine, cheese from a cow, and probably even what kind of soap the cook used to wash their hands. Dogs don't just smell pizza, they smell the entire story of pizza. And it doesn't stop there. Inside a dog's nose is a special structure called the vomeronasal organ, which lets them detect pheromones, the invisible chemical signals animals leave behind. It's like a secret code, telling them who's been there, if they were scared, if they were ready to fight, or if they were looking for a mate. To us, a tree might look like just a tree. To a dog, it's basically a community bulletin board filled with messages left by every animal that walked past. That superpower nose is why dogs can do things that amaze us. Some dogs can smell tiny drops of blood in water. Others can sniff out diseases in people, like diabetes or even certain cancers, just by detecting changes in body odor. Scientists are still studying all the ways dogs can use their noses to keep us healthy. But one of the most famous jobs for dog noses is helping people. You've probably seen police dogs or rescue dogs at work. These dogs aren't scary or mean, they're helpers. With training, their noses can track a missing person through a forest, even days after they've walked through. They can find someone lost under snow after an avalanche or hidden under rubble after an earthquake. For these dogs, the world is full of invisible trails, and they follow those trails to bring people home safe. One of the most incredible things about these helper dogs is how excited they are to work. To them, finding someone isn't just a job, it's the best game ever. Their trainers turn it into a giant game of hide and seek. Imagine your dog searching through a park, wagging its tail, and then celebrating with a toy or treat when it wins by finding the person. That's what search and rescue work is like. It's life-saving, but for the dog, it's also fun. And yes, police dogs help too, but not the way you might picture in movies. A lot of them are trained just to sniff out things people shouldn't have or to find evidence. Their job is to use their noses to keep everyone safe. In a way, they're detectives, but instead of magnifying glasses, they've got super sniffers. Imagine if humans had noses like dogs. You could walk into a classroom and instantly know who had a peanut butter sandwich for lunch, who forgot to wear deodorant, and who snuck in with a wet dog on their shoes. Honestly, we might not want that level of information. Dogs don't mind though, they love it. Does your dog ever do the teleport trick, where the second you open a bag of chips, they appear out of nowhere? Or maybe your dog can always tell when you've come home with fast food before you even open the bag? Tell me in the comments, because every dog owner has a story like that. So when your dog sniffs the ground for ages on a walk, or stops to sniff one tree for what feels like forever, don't rush them. They're not just wasting time, they're reading a whole novel written in smells. For wolves, those smells meant the difference between survival and death. For dogs, it still means connection, curiosity, and sometimes even heroism. And if noses helped wolves and dogs survive in the wild, food turned out to be the next big game changer. Let's dig into the story of DNA, diet, and why your dog thinks pizza crust is a gift. Imagine sitting down with a scientist who tells you, your dog and a wolf, they're basically twins. At first, you'd laugh. How could your floppy-eared, belly-rub-loving pup possibly be a wolf? But genetically, it's true. Wolves and dogs share 99.9% of their DNA. That's almost identical. The tiny difference is what turned hunters of elk into beggars for cheese sticks. So what's in that 0.1% that makes dogs, well, dogs? One of the biggest discoveries comes from something surprising: starch. Wolves are strict carnivores. They live on meat. But when wolves started living around humans, they found scraps of food that weren't just meat. Think about early farming communities. People had bread, rice, roots, and other starchy leftovers. Wolves that could digest that food had an advantage. Over time, dogs evolved extra copies of a gene called AMY2B, which helps break down starch into energy. That's right, dogs became carb-friendly. Wolves never did. Which means the next time your dog gives you the eyes for a piece of pizza crust, it's not just greed, it's evolution. Thousands of years of adaptation have trained your pup to survive and thrive on scraps from human plates. Of course, that doesn't mean all human food is good for dogs. Chocolate, grapes, and onions are still off limits. But it does explain why dogs can handle a little rice or potato in their diet, while a wolf wouldn't bother. To wolves, bread is boring. To dogs, bread is survival, and maybe even a treat. Now let's talk about how food shaped the bond between humans and dogs. Feeding an animal is one of the fastest ways to create trust. Imagine an early human tossing scraps of mammoth meat or leftover stew to a wolf pup. The pup eats, feels safe, and comes back. The human feels safer too, because now there's a furry alarm system nearby. That cycle repeated for thousands of years until trust became loyalty. Today, when you fill your dog's bowl, you're repeating an ancient ritual that sealed the friendship between our species. Science goes even deeper. Researchers discovered that when humans and dogs look into each other's eyes, both species release oxytocin, the love hormone. This is the same chemical that bonds mothers to babies. Wolves don't do this with humans, but dogs do. It's proof that dogs rewired their own biology to connect with us. That look your dog gives you, the one that melts your heart and makes you share half your sandwich, isn't just adorable, it's chemical magic built into both of your brains. So yes, dogs hacked our system. They learned to make us fall in love with them, then use that bond to get fed. Basically, your dog is running the longest con in history. But instead of stealing your wallet, it stole your heart and half your fries. Be honest. Has your dog ever guilt-stared you into giving up food? What was it? Steak? Pizza crust? Or did you actually hand over your fries? Tell me in the comments, and let's see whose dog is the biggest food thief. From genes that digest bread to eyes that trigger love hormones, food wasn't just fuel for dogs. It was the bridge that turned wolves into family. And if food created trust, then the next step is loyalty. The reason dogs became not just pets, but partners. So the next time your dog circles before bed, barks at a leaf, or guilt stares you out of your lunch, remember, take a good look at your dog. Maybe it's sprawled upside down on the couch, paws twitching in a dream. Maybe it's running in frantic circles at the sound of the doorbell. Maybe it's trying to sit on your lap even though it weighs as much as a grown human. However silly or sweet it looks, remember this: inside, it's still a wolf. Every habit your dog has, howling at sirens, circling before bed, burying bones, sniffing every tree, begging for food, wagging its tail, is a survival skill handed down by wolves. The wolf isn't gone. It's just disguised in floppy ears, waggy tails, and puppy eyes. Selective breeding over thousands of years exaggerated some of those wolf traits. Herding dogs like border collies, they've got the pack instinct cranked up to 11, turning sheep into their moving prey. Guard dogs like Rottweilers or Mastiffs, they inherited the territorial drive to protect their home and pack. And lap dogs like Pomeranians and Chihuahuas, they're basically wolves stuck in permanent puppy mode, forever clingy, playful, and adorably bossy. What's wild is that none of this was planned from the start. Humans didn't sit down and design dog breeds on day one. It happened slowly, as people favored dogs that fit their needs. Need a hunter? Keep the dog with the sharp nose. Need a protector? Keep the dog that barks at strangers. Need a companion? Keep the one that cuddles instead of growls. Over time, wolves turned into working partners, and working partners turned into family. Science shows that this bond is so deep, dogs actually read us better than almost any other animal. They can follow the direction of your finger, something even chimpanzees struggle to do. They know the difference between a happy voice and an angry one. They can sense your moods by your body language. Some dogs even act differently when you're sick or sad. Thousands of years ago, wolves learned to survive by reading human behavior. And today, that skill makes them our most loyal friends. But don't let the loyalty fool you. Dogs never lost their inner wolf mischief. That's why your Labrador still steals socks, your Beagle still bays at birds, and your Husky still tries to sing with every passing fire truck. The truth is, dogs might be the greatest undercover agents in history. They convinced us to feed them, shelter them, and give them toys, all while carrying the instincts of a top predator. And we love them for it. Honestly, who else could get away with eating your shoe and still get a belly rub 5 minutes later? Which of your dog's habits feels the most wolf-like? Is it the howling, the digging, the guarding, or maybe the endless begging? Share your story in the comments. I guarantee someone else's pup is doing the exact same thing. From campfires in the Ice Age to the dog bed in your living room, wolves and humans walk this road together. And though the wolf has changed its shape, its spirit is still curled up at your side, wagging its tail, waiting for dinner, and reminding you that every dog is, at heart, a wolf in disguise. So the next time your dog circles before bed, barks at a leaf, or guilt stares you out of your lunch, remember this: you're watching history play out. Inside that goofy, lovable dog is the heart of a wolf, beating with instincts thousands of years old. Which of these wolf traits do you see most in your dog? Tell me in the comments below. And if you love this journey into the wild roots of man's best friend, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss another paw fact. Until next time, stay curious, stay wild, and give your wolf, I mean your dog, an extra belly rub from me.